Welcome to MBA in a Day, a brief, deep, and easy to understand place to get and apply important business concepts and principles, the same that are taught in top-tier MBA programs. I'm Professor Stralser, and in the 25 years that I've been teaching in elite MBA programs, I've noticed how many doctors, attorneys, engineers, scientists, folks that are already well-educated, already smart, but may not have had the kind of business training that they need to be successful in their business or practice. So whether you're listening to this in your car, while commuting to or from work, on the beach, or just want to learn about business, let's get started with this episode's exploration of critical business concepts. How many of you have worked in a family business? So, a lot of you. Okay, so tell us about it a little bit.
Basically, my parents owned a batting cage. Pretty much the employees were just my parents, and then me and my sister helped out. And
Okay.
then we had some hitting instructors, catching instructors, pitching instructors, scouting.
Yeah. Were they all like contract people?
Most of them that were ASU softball players,
Mm-hmm.
the instructors, and then there were some for pitching and catching specifically, and then a lot of the hitting instructors were like coaches.
Okay.
From different club teams around the valley and stuff.
Yeah. And is the company still going?
No.
Okay.
So we sold it, and
Okay.
then whoever we sold it to.
Okay. Did you work in it from a little kid?
When I was a freshman in high school until my end of junior year when I sold it.
Okay. Who else had their hands up? Yep.
So my parents had a wind generator company, so they would resell solar, but then they manufactured like small wind generators for local homes.
Oh, cool.
Well, not local. They sold them online as well. But anyway, it was a disaster. They did it for quite a few years, but they just had to close it eventually. So.
And how many people involved in the business?
Well, my brothers, my dad, and my mom.
So it was totally family.
6, yeah.
6, okay. All right. Anybody else? You had your hand up?
Yeah, I just worked at Josephine's here in town.
Oh, the restaurant?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's family run. So it was a husband and wife, and their son would work there too. And then they had like a few other employees as well.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Yep.
My mom was a real estate agent and was her own broker. So
Okay.
just basically just did assistantships in the summer.
Yeah.
From the time I probably graduated until.
Okay. Yeah.
I worked for a summer at my uncle's insurance company.
Uh-huh.
And it was, they ran it, but there was other employees that worked family there.
Yeah.
I did like administrative work for them and stuff.
Okay. So, based on your kind of firsthand experience, and our cases are about this, family business scenario, what do you see as the differences? What did you notice that was different about working in a family business than just a regular job if you're working for somebody else? What do you think were the dynamics?
It's probably hard to fire your family members.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So some of the differences might be meritocracy. In other words, sometimes people aren't performing, but they still keep their job. Yep.
It's hard to find like a line of succession in a family business.
Okay.
There's a lot of dispute.
Succession itself isn't that different in a family business. I mean, every business has to think about succession, but the decision-making becomes much trickier, much more fraught with emotion and stuff.
You don't want to downgrade your reputation in family business.
You don't want to downgrade
your reputation.
So I guess what I'm hearing is that what's really important is your reputation. That reputation, it's family
Name associated with it.
equals the business. So they're overlapped. And so if there's a knock on the business, it's a knock on the family. So there's a lot more riding on the business. Yep.
So this is talking about like what happened in the case.
Mhm.
Right? One thing that I find interesting that's probably really hard to deal with is all the people that are in power now want to give their succession to their children, but half of those kids probably don't want anything to do with this company.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be kind of rough to get them to transition into that sector.
Sure. Okay. Well, let's segue into the case then, with that
Oh, and
thought.
one more thing about
Yeah.
the too. Well, kind of with that is I know when I worked at my aunt's and uncle's insurance agency, I asked for like feedback, like critical feedback where I can improve, and they were kind of hesitant. So
Mhm.
they didn't want to be like cruel to me, like
Yeah.
you need to do this. So I think that kind of goes hand in hand with meritocracy. They don't want to fire their employees because they're family, but like
So,
kind of difficult to give proper feedback.
yeah, it's very tough to have objectivity and even transparency in a family business. So let's dive into the case. Obviously, this is not a case where you really had to solve a problem or identify a problem and fix it. It was just sort of a scenario of a family kind of contemplating a transfer of responsibilities in the firm. So why do you think the case is even important? I mean, what did it point out to you as some things that make family businesses maybe different when you're advising them? So we're in a consulting class, so when we consult with a business that's a family business, I think this case helps us take a perspective on what's different and what's important. Yep.
Well, I think because after reading it with all the kids, I was like, none of them should do this business. None of them have any experience.
Right.
They don't even seem interested, but they feel entitled to have ownership.
Right.
But going back to the family, you have to be careful about the recommendations you give. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you want to be like, okay, your kids downright should not operate this business. They're probably going to run it to the ground if they do. But then you don't want to give them false. Like, you don't be like, yeah, go ahead, give it to them. You kind of have to find a middle ground, but be very careful about it.
Right. Okay. So you are, as a consultant in the family business, you are really dealing with some extra sensitivities. Help me with your suggestion. Let's say after you're done with your MBA and you decide that you really are interested in family business as a consulting setting. And there are some really successful family business consultants that do very well. In addition to your MBA, what kind of background do you think you would need, you would be desirable, besides having an MBA, to be an advisor to a family business? What just based on this case, what do you think you would need?
You'd probably have to have like a larger family.
Have your own?
Yeah, like
Okay.
well, I mean not your own, but like if you grew up with like a lot of siblings and
So
or,
have
you know,
some
or you
experience?
hang out with your cousins and stuff like that to be able to understand the values and stuff that
Okay.
they find important to keep within the family.
Okay. So large family experience.
Or just even like a good family experience, or like just or
Some family experience.
yeah, some family experience.
If you're an only child.
Yeah.
So does that mean if you're an orphan, you couldn't be a
No,
family?
not necessarily. That's why I was like trying to find a better wording.
Okay.
100%.
All right. Yeah. What else? What else do you need?
I think you would have to have like a degree or experience in counseling or psychology.
Bingo. Yep.
Yeah, because you're dealing with more than just business issues. You're like consulting for family issues as well, and I feel like you need some sort of like social background for that.
A lot of the most successful family business consultants have degrees in religion and philosophy.
So there is a path for philosophy.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, why do you think these non-business kinds of perspectives are important in a family business? Yeah.
Probably because they're not just like focused on like, oh, this has to work for the business only. They're thinking, okay, well, this has to also work for the family, and like the relationships like between the family members are very important to keeping the business running.
Right, and because the dynamics are, they're business, but they just are loaded with all of these other things that somebody with a psych degree, somebody with a philosophy degree, somebody come from a seminary, that kind of thing, the ministry becomes very, very important. Somebody had their hand up. You wanted to add something? Yeah.
I was just going to say, provide like or give a different, or have a different perspective on how a business should operate, and how they think less quantitatively and more about like their values and what they can create, using like their knowledge for creativity. So yeah, just thinking in a different sense.
Yeah, and really, when you look at you look at the successful family business consultants, they are usually flipped the other way, so that the business is less of a competency. It has to be there, but it's really upside down, and the top of the pyramid is more of this stuff. So why do you think this family brought in a consultant, brought in this group? What?
I think it has to deal with the generational gap. I mean, every generation thinks that the next generation is just awful. And I mean, while it is kind of the case in this situation,
Yeah.
I think they do need to. You can see that the second generation and first generation really do care about this business.
Mm-hmm.
They want it to succeed, but they also want to leave their legacy with their children. So
Yeah.
it's kind of hard for them to decide how it's best to continue this within that, whether that be not having any of these kids have a part of it and they just take a paycheck from it and keep
Yeah.
doing what they're doing. Because, I mean, everything they talk about in here is like this, they never worked, they just let the business work for them,
Mm-hmm.
their generation.
Right.
So I think it's hard for them to turn over this company
Right.
to people who have no experience.
Okay. All right.
I think the consultants almost act as a mediator as well. It's easier to like swallow a pill from someone else, right?
Right.
That's probably
Right.
an analogy, but it is. I mean,
Yeah.
you're able to learn.
Well, yeah.
That's what they say.
The consultant, brings this sense of objectivity and credibility, and it's easier on the older generation for the consultant to say these things than for the older generation to say it. It makes Thanksgiving dinner maybe a little bit more comfortable. So are there any other factors besides the kids not really being involved in the business that you think might come to play in this case?
What's her name? The one lady, like the middle sister. She does like all of the, more or less she has like a really big role in the business, but she doesn't seem to want more like share than anyone else, or it's all pretty much breaking up. And I think that's going to be a problem if they do transition it to the kids, kind of doing a separation of duties and seeing who's going to do what within the business.
Well, yeah, and for sure there needs to be some sorting out among all these kids about, who's going to do what, if anything, and what role, if anything. That's where the consultant comes in. Yep.
It was also interesting too because it talked about how the last sister, like she didn't really do anything with the business, but she's the only one that went to college, and so it was just like interesting to see how she was just like, oh well, yeah, I don't have any experience with the business, but like I have a degree, so I think I could do it, and
Yeah.
so like that's gonna come out when she's like, okay, like I've kind of taken more of a back seat, but now she's going to want to be like more involved in the decision process.
Right. Yep. So I'm going to read off some names of businesses, and I want you write down any of them that you think are family businesses, okay? So here's some businesses. Walmart.
Yes.
Write them down. I'm trying to guess myself.
Yeah. This is a test. No, okay, write these down. Which ones are? Walmart. Hallmark cards. Bacardi. Bacardi. Nordstrom. Anheuser-Busch. Smuckers. IKEA.
Yes.
And last but not least, Hermes. Or Hermes.
I'm gonna say yes, because I don't know what them.
It's a
Okay. Okay, which ones are family business?
I'm gonna say all of them.
All of them, exactly.
What else?
All of them are, yeah. So we could add,
Okay.
You didn't think Bacardi?
yeah.
Bacardi was.
So,
No, it is. They talk about it in the commercials.
so just some factoids. In the U.S., 80% of all businesses in the U.S. are some kind of family business, whether it's mom and pop. Now we talk about Ford. It's on the, it's publicly traded. It's still a family business. The trust, Ford Foundation, still controls a lot of it. 64% of GDP is generated by these kinds of family businesses. Over 35,000 family businesses have annual revenues of more than 25 million. So, I mean, it's a big deal. Family business is really a big deal. However, what do you think 90% represents?
Family businesses fail.
Bingo. So there's a failure rate. Failure rate, 90% won't make it to the 5th year of operation. 12% make it to the 3rd generation.
Is that 12% of like the 10% who make it?
Yeah. So the idea is that it's very big, but it's very problematic. There is something in the literature that is called founder's disease. Founder's disease. So what do you think that means? What is founder's disease?
Isn't it when you have like a family business and then you have a guy who like runs it and then he gives it to like his kid or something and his kid just screws it all up?
Well, that's related to it because the founder has something to do with that. Yeah, back there.
Founder's disease is when the owner or founder of the business gets carried away with their ideas to the extent that the business becomes unsustainable.
That's more like it. I mean, you've got part of it, but that's really the essence, is that the founder doesn't want to let go. The founder has invested, blood, sweat, and tears, and won't delegate, and so maybe hands it off to the kid without the right kind of preparation. So the kid becomes one of these guys.
So would you consider Jerry Jones someone that suffers from founder's disease?
Yeah.
Jerry Jones of the Cowboys?
The guy who...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but...
Why does he have founder's disease?
Because he's a GM, he thinks he's everything, and then
But- Yeah, but are the Cowboys still
They're profitable.
working?
I mean,
No.
well, what's
One
worse
playoff
than
game in 11 years.
I mean, are they?
Who cares? Look at
Yeah.
sales and look at uniform sales. They're still like top 5 teams.
Yeah.
I think like a small microscopic example of that is him being GM.
Yeah.
There's plenty of qualified.
Well,
potential GMs.
well, I'll give you an example of founder's disease. I think that that's really an interesting one. I think Steve Jobs had founder's disease at the first iteration because he insisted on so much control that when they did go public, finally, his board of directors and shareholders felt that he was not, the company was going to auger in. And so they yanked him and put Scully in. And then that didn't work out. He came back and voila. So the idea in founder's disease is that the founder, and you can imagine the kind of emotional investment that any founder would have in their own business. After all, many of us who start businesses, we take out mortgages, we max out our credit cards, we eat ramen, all that stuff. It's like grad school, right? So we start this business. We start this business. It grows with our own 20-hour days, and now it's growing and working. And are we going to hand over the keys to some bright 24-year-old MBA from NAU? Maybe not. They're gonna keep their claws on the business. And very often, that's what croaks the business, is that there is just too much need for control and lack of delegation or willingness to bring in people that may know more than the founder. Yeah, Jay.
Do you think? I mean, you've owned a business, started your own business. So do you think that you have to have founder's disease at the start? Because if you don't, you won't be fully. I mean, like, I know I watched my stepdad open up a business, and he was working 18, 20-hour days, not making any money for a year, and then it finally worked. But if he wouldn't have had that insane thought process in his head that this is going to work, he would have just left.
Well, I would make a distinction between founder's disease and ultimate control and investment. So founder's disease is really when that commitment kind of works against you.
Okay.
So it's possible not to have it, to be able to understand when it's time to bring in people and when to make some changes. So it's not that it's always necessary, but it is very often what's been attributed to a business that fails or just plateaus. There's a term in the VC world called the Walking Dead, or the zombie companies that are just kind of existing. They're not growing, they're not dying, but founder's disease could also be a part of that, where some founders are afraid to get it too big because they know it may become more complicated than they are willing to manage, and yet they don't want to give up any control to somebody else, so they'd rather just keep it nice and easy. Some would call it a lifestyle business, which is not a bad thing. Like the ski house, I imagine there are lots of ski shops around the country that are one unit operated by 2 or 3 folks that love skiing. They're never going to get any bigger. They're very happy. It's a lifestyle kind of business, and there's nothing wrong with it. So, yeah.
So is the idea of founder disease that the founders like so involved to the point where it chokes off potential, like in either direction?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a form of control and myopia, where you just can't see, where things are going. You really are kind of focused internally. So, what would an MBA class be without a Venn diagram, right? So here we go.
Yeah, we have It's our first Venn diagram.
So there's the business, here's the family, and here's the management. Okay, so what this represents is kind of the forces and the systems within a family business. So to begin with, we have the business itself. Might be a batting cage, might be a ski house, something like that. It's a business. Then we have a family, some of whom are in the business, but they're not in the management of the business. So we have a lot of these kids, right, that felt like they belonged here. Then we have management, the people that operate the business. So obviously we got the management overlapping here. We have some family that is involved in the management of the business. And then we have some family that is involved in all three. So they have an interest in the business, they participate in the management, and their family. So who would be out here? So looking at like people, who would represent people that are in the business, that are not managers, and they're not family?
Would it be like line employees, people, like in this case, people work in the grocery store?
Well, they might be here, but yeah, so we might just say employees. Who else might hang around out here?
Competition.
But this is the business itself, so they're not in the business.
What's the difference between the business circle and the management circle?
Well, the business is, the company, and this is the people who run the company. So the company is sort of independent, can be looked at as independent of the management. So this would be
kind of like the day-to-day.
Yeah, so this might be investors. See, so investors have an interest in the business, but they're not involved in the management. And the investors are not part of the family. So they operate in the business. We have management who are involved in the business, but they're not part of the family. But we do have family as part of the management and part of the business. Yep.
What would be an example of management that's not involved with the business?
It might be, what, say that again?
Like, just from what I'm thinking, if you're managing a business, you're part of the business.
Right.
So what would be an example of like independent management?
Well, it would be like a CPA who provides advice to the management but is not working in the business or operating the business.
So consulting?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Board of directors also be considered in that, or would they be considered as part of the business?
They would be, directors would be up here. So one of the problems in this case and in most family businesses is that how do we manage these guys and these guys? Because these are family people that are either have a vested interest in the business but not in the management, or they're part of the management of the business as well. So if you are a family member out here and you're not a part of the management, how do you view these people, bless you, that are family members that are part of the management of the company? What do you think the two perspectives are going to be?
I think it really goes back to the relationship within the family. I mean, I think that the younger generation kind of believes that they want the family to be in charge of management because they've been doing it so far. And then all the people who are in the family circle that don't have any ties to business or management are just happy collecting a check.
Okay, so this person is in the family but not in the management. This person is in the family and part of the management. Should this person who's in the family but not active in the management have an equal share of the business? Or could you make the case that this person should be getting more because they are devoting their life to helping manage the business? What do you think?
I mean, definitely the latter, and it also depends on how, based upon the founder, like how, or with the family, I guess how close, which family members are close to that founder, because like, for a family business, like, let's say the founder, of course, founds it, and like his sister, and his close related family is probably going to get a higher cut than the cousins and the second cousins. So that has some sort of play. And then I think person A is going to view person B as kind of like a representative. Person B is going to should be compensated more based upon the work that they put in to manage the business. But that person A is going to look to person B as someone who should like take care of the business responsibly and be seen as more of the leader, or that person in charge of running the business.
Okay, so let's just take a hypothetical. Let's just say that person A is a 20% interest in the business. Should person B also have 20%? And let's say they're in the same generation, same parents. Why would you give this person a haircut on 20%?
Well, I feel like in management you have kind of a lot more skin in the game. Like you probably are, like you are investing your time in the company more time than person A.
So they should have more than 20%?
Yeah.
I think they should have more than person A. I don't think they should be equal.
Okay, but they're getting paid.
Yeah.
They're drawing a salary, okay? This person is not drawing a salary. They're just, shooting wildlife photos. What do you think?
That's what I was going to say. It also depends on how much you invested at the beginning, too. Person A could have invested more in person B.
Well, we're talking about generations down where there's no real, we're past the founder stage.
Person B is still getting a salary. They're still working for the business.
So you think that 20 is fair? That both these guys should get 20%?
I think it depends on the amount person B is making, like what person A is doing. Everything is going to depend on the.
Yeah, but A is getting 0 salary, and B is getting $75K a year, let's say. Oh, yep.
Person A and B probably didn't have any say in how much they were getting. They were just getting it from someone else. Person B is going to be compensated with bonuses if the company is doing well and their salary, which person A is not going to get.
Okay, so you think the 20-20 is fair because it was like given to them? Yeah. Do you think it would? Do you think the generation above A and B has a problem in attitude between A and B? I think there's going to be a equity issue between those two.
My question or my comment's not going to answer that, but what I was thinking is from the case specifically, you have the youngest daughter. She's definitely person A, but she has 20%. But then you have Heffa, who's running the business and she has 20%.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're okay with that split.
Yeah.
But also when they were younger, they both worked in the business.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Okay.
think it'd be different if, like, say, the next generation, like that's how it's split.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the person in the next generation never actually worked in the business, so maybe it should be
Mhm.
20%. It should be less.
Okay. Okay. So 3 more, and then I'm going to ask you how to fix this. Yeah.
It also has to like tie into the fact that like, is it like entitlement? Like, or is person A just saying like, oh, like I am part of the family, I should have it, but I'm gonna not try to like move up and take more of an active role than like management.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she was born with this. You know, neither A or B had to earn their 20%. So this is just given to them. Back. Yeah.
I think it's also dependent on like company/family values as well. Like I know, like for my dad, for example, like we'd be born with 0%. That's just the kind of guy he is, and it's like if you want to make your money through this company that we built, like you're gonna earn it. So, but my mom, on the other hand, would have been like, oh, everybody gets 100%. One doesn't work out, but you know, she's crazy.
Yeah.
And so I think this is like a question of like now. I think it's like it's just family values and how it's always been. And so I mean, like 20%. If that's how that family is, like yeah, it's fair that they both get 20%,
right?
Because that's But I mean, my dad would be the total opposite. My dad, if you're over there at person A, you're getting dog shit, you know.
Yeah. Well, and in this case, it's going to be hard to put the toothpaste back in the tube. You know, this is 3rd generation going on. So 1 more, and then we're moving on.
So, I mean, I think I've seen this. My aunt has a trust because has started when she was younger and dealing with my dad being the guardian of it.
Mm-hmm.
Her kids, seeing how this works and it plays out. While you're just giving people money, family is always going to bigger. And the best way to do it is just you get this %, and if you don't like it, give it back because it's free money.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think that person B, the other thing that's not up there that I think should be up there is the fact that person B has a 50% stake in control of the company with where the company's going to go. So that makes their 20% more valuable because their 20% they're the one determining which way the company's going to go. So they could either make more money or lose more money as well.
Well, I mean, they just can't do that unilaterally, though. I mean, they still.
As a company, you need one other % to do whatever the hell you want.
So where'd you get the 50%?
Right out of the case.
Oh, okay. You're talking about a specific.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, so all right. So let's fix this. So without really knowing much more than what we got in the case, what would be some things that a consultant could recommend? And let's say that we have the luxury of starting more or less from scratch with a family business, giving them advice on how to avoid these kinds of things. What would you be thinking about to mitigate some of these very normal, almost rational? I mean, they seem irrational, but they are human behavior. What could we do to mitigate some of these issues?
I mean, I think the 2nd generation, like all like how like they're all working like as a kid and all that stuff, and like at a young age. But then like no, their kids did. It's like, well, why didn't you have this? Like, why didn't you have your kids more involved early on? It's like I know they're all in art school and they're bee preservers, but like you could have had them somewhat involved, earlier on to mitigate this issue of none of the kids know what to do or want to do anything. And so it's like that's on you though. It's like
right.
As a parent, you're like, hey, I want you to come every weekend work at the place and you make money.
Right.
Also, that's one of the business. It's like they may have done that. I didn't get that sense.
You can make it more of the kid's choice of where they want to wind up by starting early. And if they opt out early, then they have created their own pathway, and it has to be clearly communicated to them. Yeah.
Would it be like pre-made trusts? Just say, hey, if you decide to actually take a part of this company, and one day you're senior management, you get 20%, but if you decide not to be senior management, you don't get any.
Yeah. So another thing would be to create a charter or some sort of roadmap. Obviously this needs to be done at the beginning when a founder is thinking about, wanting to bring in family members into their business. So being able to identify what the family values are, how to navigate into a role in the family business. Yep.
So one thing that I've seen, back in my family, and that I saw done with my family and the way they handled it, is the 3 sons had their trust set up. And they had to sit down in a room and determine who got what based on what they did, or everything was getting donated on their behalf to a charity. So it really put the ball in their court to realize, we have to figure it out.
So this was this on a regular basis?
Well, it was with my, they've gotten 2 payouts from a trust, and then they have trusts based on what they've done. They had stipulations if you went to school, you got a degree, whoever has a better job kind of stuff, just kind of setting themselves up for life out of it.
One important thing is a lot of families have a criteria that before a family member can come into the family business, they have to work outside of the family business and succeed in some measurable way in that outside business. So the Smucker, Mark Smucker was a student of mine. Smucker's, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And he had to work 5 years at Citibank, and he had to earn a certain level of promotion at Citibank before he could come into the business. Why is that important? Why would it be important for a family member to get a job outside the business, have some demonstrable success, and then that's the pathway into the business? We'll start over here.
I would think, because one of the things we talked about earlier was problems with family and family business. If you work outside, you don't have those issues, and you kind of learn how a regular business works.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So then when you go into the family business, you're like, perfect. I know, you're my brother or whatever.
Right. Okay.
You need to be colleagues first.
Okay. What?
I know, also, for the Smucker guy, when he goes to the city bank, he doesn't have quite necessarily that job security. He doesn't have that. I'm not saying a family business is always job secure, but you might have more job security in a family business than you do a company that you don't know anybody. And I'm sure you get perks in a family business that you don't get. And so you learn how to work in the bare bones of a organization. But also it's this. You learn a different system, and so when you do come to Smuckers, you're going to have maybe new ideas or new ways of doing things, just kind of a different perspective on things. I think it's very important. So to prove that you can keep a job and then also bring some new ideas.
You have outsider perspective. What else?
You get to prove your worth.
Bingo. Yes.
If you're outside of the family business and you don't do well, oh well. But if you're inside the family business and you don't do well, it isn't like you're going to get fired.
Right. So by being successful on the outside, when you do come into the business, the non-family members that are working there are going to take you much more seriously, give you much more credibility than if you just woke up one morning and were a vice president after 4 years of undergrad. So working outside and succeeding is a good litmus test, a good credibility maker that helps put the family member into a better role, a better opportunity to succeed within their business. Some other things would be mentorship. inside the family business. Now, mentorship in the form of both older family members, but also non-family members, working to get the perspective of both inside and outside. Yes?
Would that be before they came into the business or like while in the business?
No, it would be after they did their 5 years and they entered the family business. They have a mentorship relationship with a senior executive and a senior family member. Let me just wrap up with just some overall kinds of pros and cons to a family business. So if you were advising a family business and you were trying to think of ways to position them in the marketplace, let's say, as a credible company, what would be some of the pros of a family business? Why does a family business matter if you are positioning that against, more traditional, complex types of organizations? Hold up. Yeah. So what are the pros?
Well, I mean, I think of Walmart. They have their family business and they know exactly what the family's going to do and how they're going to do it. There's really not a lot of bickering about what the vision of the firm is or where it's going to go. They have kind of a set direction and that's where they're going.
Okay, I let me just make that there's a high level of efficiency.
Yeah, sure.
And that can be converted into vision, strategy, and so on. So a family business is just generally more nimble because just think about it, and this is also the negative, every dinner is a board meeting. Every dinner you can discuss something and enact it the next day if, at an extreme. What else? What else is the good stuff? Yep.
You know who you're working with.
Okay, so you have trust, familiarity, certain amount of loyalty that you assume. Yeah, I mean, there's, if you want to read a horror story about a family business, look up the U-Haul family in Phoenix, the Showens, Shoen, brothers. I mean, there was some really bad stuff, including violence and just terrible. So the Showens. Yeah.
I worked for a company in high school, a landscape company. It was like a family business that wasn't my family, but I was working for them. That totally, family doesn't even speak to each other.
Right.
Doesn't even speak.
Right.
And it's that is a con right there. Is you could
Lose your family.
lose your family.
Yeah.
You get your ass kicked.
Okay. I would also say, especially at the beginning stages of a family business, you reduce your labor cost. Your kids are doing stuff. Yeah. They're going to show up and so on. Family disputes become, I have two cousins that don't speak to each other over a company, family business, and what happened to it after it had been sold. Very, very difficult. Yep.
If you're not inside the family, it's very difficult to move up and have ideas and stuff.
Okay, so participating. might be kind of passive. What else? What else is a negative?
Corruption and more inexperience.
Okay. Help me with the corruption part.
Corruption, I mean, you are more likely to be corrupt and to do anything and willing to do anything to make that business be successful, to last. You know?
Okay,
Like,
so
someone brought up, like, yeah, you might have lower labor costs, but you're also paying that person under the table most likely, which isn't necessarily ethical.
there might be some negative incentives. One more, and then we'll plow out of here. Yeah.
Maybe if you have like, I mean, I can imagine working with my brother when I started a business, and then I had more expertise in the business wise, and then like he didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Like there could be issues there with the expertise of the business.
Okay, so the cons are the perceived inequities. Okay. All right. Well, let's call that a wrap. Everybody have a good, safe holiday.